Hi, everyone out there. Thanks for joining us. We have two wonderful poets with us today, Mary Ann McFadden and Mei-mei Bersssenbrugge. Mary Ann will read first and then Mei-mei. Mary Ann McFadden, Ventura County's Poet Laureate, published Eye of the Blackbird, winner of the Four-Way Books Intro Series in Poetry in 1997, and published Devil Deer from Alice James Books in 2014. In 2005, several poems were set to music and performed at Carnegie Hall. In 2010, McFadden received a MacDowell Fellowship. She has lived in New Orleans, Seattle, and Washington, D.C., as well as in New York City, where she taught at Brooklyn College, CUNY, for 10 years. After living in Mexico from 1998 until 2012, McFadden returned to California. Her current manuscript is Rosa Mundi. Here's a magnificent poet, Mary Ann McFadden.
Thank you so much, Harry. I thought I would try on my laurel crown for you. I love wearing this, except it always falls down in my eyes. It's just a little bit big. Okay, well, that's that. That's enough. I thought I would begin. I think it's nice to begin with a love poem. This is from Devil Deer, and it's called Animal Warmth. Is it my imagination, or do the deer's coats darken in winter? Sweetheart, what I said on the phone about sharing a bed together, that fear of insomnia that haunts me like a gravy stain, I was wrong to mention it. Forgive me. Truly, I've learned that sleeping with you is what I wanted all along. My years of restless nights were caused by the dearth of you beside me, as if I knew you were there behind a screen and couldn't reach you. What matters most as we step delicately into our thicket, our dark coats exactly the shade of dampened bark, is the certainty that we are truer together than we are alone. So if I wake you as I thrash to widen my small dent in the snow, or if you wake me throwing your arm over my chest, I trust I can fall asleep again, can rest because of your breathing, your particular snore note, and that the beasts I fear, the wolf, the hunter, though they will find us one night, and first one of us, then the other will be taken. I don't have to think about it now. Not tonight, not this year, as we climb into our covers and fall deep into the snowy woods, into animal warmth, sleepers and lovers. So the next poem I'm going to read is called Imagine. And it's the first poem in the new manuscript, which is Rosa Mundi, as was mentioned. So this is Imagine. Horses gallop in the dry brush as dust rises around them, hackberry, scratch grass, the mountains beyond. Endless sky on 6 sides of us, wind. I lift up, tilt along the foothills. I'm old, and I love being old. I'm stiff and sore just from sitting in a chair. Imagine. The straight backs of my friends are learning to bow. I see stars where the woods were. Angers and their scars line my gut, and there are days when they still fester. I wake up clear, mulling the forms that surge toward me, that slipped like angleworms onto my hook. I do not know much. I never know for sure. I look for what's there, out there, away over the water. Okay, so sometimes poems surprise you. You think you're going to write about one thing, and then you end up writing about something else, or the poem has its own intelligence sometimes. I'm reading this today because it has echoes of the Pinochet regime in Chile. And what else do I need to say about it? Oh, I was in a workshop, and one of the men in it announced that he hated poems that had the word heart in them. So that pissed me off. So I decided to write a poem with a lot of as many of the heart in it as many times as possible. That would still work. So I'm hoping this one still works. And it's called We Walk Through Deep Grass. And I should mention that some people don't know that the word heart, H-A-R-T, is a kind of deer. So anyway, this is We Walk Through Deep Grass. The expensive heart with its gold bonds, with its Brandenburg gates all carven. Ornate, horny heart, so heavy to open, so heavy to shut. Doors of the embassy locked with chains and guards with guns. Your country, mine, who has the passport, who doesn't. Shoulders back, soldier, disobey, let them in. The one throwing her baby over the fence, the one about to be shot, the one about to be dragged into the stadium basement. Heart, what is it that sees us? Hot heart, hurt heart, gorgeously antlered, panting king. We walk through deep grass, closing behind us. We remain curious, passing through as if all the time in the world. Sun over the sky toward nimbus. Struck air rising and sinking. We arrive. We regard the brittle bush, heart in bloom, heart of the broken, heart of the hungry and halt. Great hearts, mountainous hearts' abundance flooding freely. The whole tribe drowned in this canyon. Sometimes we see their spirits. Harp in the flesh, strummed or bowed upon. Heart I don't know. Stranger, keep knocking. So, for my friend David, who I believe is watching from Cambodia, I'm reading one from my first book, Eye of the Blackbird, and they don't have titles. The first time I wake up, the window is dark, and then I hear a sound like a huge animal bumping against a tree trunk. Or is it a hump crawling like an old raccoon down out of the sky? Or is it the moon nudging the mountain, shoving the dark aside? The next time I look, the window is hovering, uncertain of itself, floating in the wall like a pale houseboat while the lake tries to pull it under. Once I remember rain all night, Rain like reassurance, the drip, drip pinging on the glass, patting the wood frame, puddling the ground, as if the rain were holding it there for me, as if the rain wouldn't let it go away. The next time I look, I see the light coloring the blue hibiscus, lighting the lantana's orange cluster of miniature trumpets, shadowing the rough bumps and separate greens of its crispy leaves, the bristles bright on the stem to the east, dark on the stem to the west. And now, like a mist almost not discerned, the first cheeps of the early birds beginning far away in the fields, moving across the earth to us, lit like a caravan with its rich-robed musicians and its proud kings. And I am proud of this turning, this sweep of delight that falls over me, glad to be a child of it, one of its steeples. Out of my father's bones, in green grass, in weeds, in fields of gravestones in southern France, dark now, resting, I, not separate from this. I wake up and try to grow. That's the voice of the child in the poem. Okay, this is, the title of this poem is To the Lizard God. And the title comes, it was written in Mexico, and I lived at a house that was backed up to a mountain. There were lots and lots of lizards in the backyard. And I had a cat that killed those lizards, as many as he could, all the time. And I felt bad for the lizards, but I knew the cat was just doing what cats do. But anyway, thinking of the Buddhist concept of the God in all things, I titled this, To the Lizard God. God of damnation, lizard God, eaten alive each day by the cat, and your guts ground into the carpet, or flung, O God of abandonment, into a corner. God of stench, God of retribution, warm and soft in my paper napkin, tossed in the wastebasket, carried out with crumbs and paint flakes, fruit skins and onion husks, nail parings and hair fished from drains, with crushed bugs and blooded, swatted, stinging things, O God that gives and takes away, forget me in your pain. Turn your face from me in your suffering. Close your eyes upon me in the furnace of midday as you begin to rot or in the tepid rain. When ants deliver your flesh to their queen, when your acids leak into dirt, when your frail bones fall into calcium and enter the clear blood of plants, when you are sipped at last to the top of the tree, think of me, O infant. When the brown moth alights on you and you give thanks, O God of the one everlasting touch, O breath, remember me. This next poem is called Late in the Day. Some of my poems lately tend to be about being older. It's interesting being old, and it's a worthy topic to discuss. I think that Carolyn Kaiser, who was my great teacher, said there haven't been enough poems written by aging drunken women. Well, I'm not drunken, but I am aging. And so I'm writing about it. This is called Late in the Day. I'm reading it again. The best book. The very best book I ever read. Then I was young. I wished for magic, longed for magic, nobility, and scope. Now I mourn the loss of magic. Now I see it everywhere. More than ever now, I think. Over the hills to the east, pale oceans float. Shifting lines of ibis by the hundreds cross over us in V's, in waves, in chords. A neighbor's red wall. A sudden patch of light. A shadow jumps into it, lifts its arms, pulls a shadow shirt out of the sky, falls down out of sight. On window glass, on balconies, reflected pinks. A solitary ibis flies as fast as he can. Maybe he's not too late. The sun is down. Everything stops and starts again as I flip on my electric lights, sadder now, a bit more quiet. My book is here. I pick it up. But I'm not sure, not quite sure I want to read it. And this one is it's one of those poems that you write when you're not feeling so good about things. It's called Hung Not Plumb, and it means not Plumb like a carpenter's plumb line. Despite my ignorance of love or even friendship, my feral upbringing, half lost in the hills and mountains, dunced by the hard-eyed towns, judgments, restrictions of church and school, though there was always kindness for the asking, always a cup of cool water. Though you won't forgive me in this life, I'm thankful to you who first heard my voice, who risked with me. I was chained and gagged. I was a block of wood. I bless you for throwing me away, though the river I drowned in was brackish and ribboned with bitter juices, and every word I wrote was self-preservation, then discovery, then discipline, puffery, despair, longing, then the long thirst and self-flagellation. Nothing was lost. Nothing was quite lost. Out of the need to be large, out of the pretense of wisdom, the exhaust of imagination, floats this hulk, battered and spare and generous. Not the rare and precious wing, but desperate, dulled, enduring, cast from tin and lead, hung not plumb, still hacking at the dirt with a sword, planting with a bandaged thumb. I had a little brush with cancer. I had a melanoma quite a few years ago now, but this was written, I guess, during that time or a little after, and it's called There's an Engine. There's an engine in the distance, an engine I can't quite identify, whether hovering or warming, climbing or descending, grinding or cooling or pushing water. There's an engine rolling the beds, an engine under the city, in the drains, in the waves. There's an engine in the body making cells, whether for good or for evil, whether for healing or for killing. There's an engine. There's an engine in the dog, urgent in the rooster and in the tuning. Fans hum, insects feed and lay their eggs on pails and mop springs. Who can wait for rain? Sometimes I love, and sometimes I can't love what carries me. Like a child, I praise what gives and revile what takes away. I pray to the engine for mercy on me, on those I need. Mercy for strangers, for nations, mercy for the spankers, and mercy for the killers of souls. I pray to the watchmaker to set me slow, to slow down the tumblers tumbling in the locks, the waters falling past pillows. I pray for the body to last a little longer. Your body, my body, our body.
Well, thank you, Mary Ann. Your poetry has simplicity, clarity. There's a comfortness in your poetry, sagacity and wisdom, obviously the same thing, and heart. And that last poem, Mercy, you're a personal poet, but you're more than that. You're not solipsistic. You include the whole world, and you include us all. And there's a curiosity that I always love about you. But I think what I enjoy most is just the confidence and just the soulfulness of the word, the spirituality, if you will. Do you rewrite your poetry, or do you just sit down and write a poem? What is it that kicks off a poem, and then what is your poetry process to make a poem?
I do rewrite a lot, although once in a while you have one of those lucky times where you just write it, and usually I think, oh, well, that's going to need some revision. But once in a while I realize afterwards that, that I'm going to let that stand. I might rearrange the line lengths or something like that. But that's a good day when that happens. But usually I do. There's one poem that I couldn't finish to my satisfaction for about 20 years. I kept putting it away, and I really liked it, and I wanted it to come out right, but I just couldn't make it happen. And finally, I saw that I was trying for too much. I needed to simplify it, and then it worked.
One last question. We just have about half a minute. In the one poem, you talked about the best book you've ever read. What is the best book you ever read, or is that just a metaphor?
Well, I thought that was the best book I'd ever read, but then it turned out that, 50 years later, it wasn't as good as I had thought it was at the time. It was the Once and Future King. The one about King Arthur and all the magical things that he learned with Merlin. But then reading it later, I still liked it a lot, but it wasn't quite as good as I had thought. There have been others since then.
I love that last poem you read, mercy, asking for mercy, and it's your candor. I believe that's the essence of poetry, at least for me. And you're more than, as I said, you're more than a personal poet. You include the whole world, the spiritual and the physical real, among other things, and your love. You're a love poet too. And I always love it when you come on and hear your poetry, Mary Ann. You're great. So thank you once again, Mary Ann McFadden. And then our next poet is coming up. Born in Beijing, Mei-mei Bersssenbrugge is the author of 14 books of poetry, including Hello the Roses, Empathy, I Love, and a treatise on stars, shortlisted for the Pulitzer Prize and the National Book Award. Her collaborations include works in theater, dance, music, and the visual arts. She received the Bollinger Prize for Poetry in 2020. She lives in New Mexico and New York City. Here's a brilliant poet, Mei-mei Bersssenbrugge.
Hello from New Mexico, everyone, and thank you, Mary Ann. for your beautiful beauty, clarity, and significance of your poems.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to hearing you.
I thought I would begin with the last section of a poem I wrote called Fog, that was commissioned by a dance company and was used as a text for the dancers to move through instead of music. And one reason I'm reading it is because it was set to music this year by the composer George Lewis and performed by the Crossing Choir and won a Grammy. So it's a rare combination of words, poet, and Grammy. This is the last section, and the whole poem is a meditation on fog. They counted her more accurate and more inaccurate memories as black and white stones. The more accurate memories turned out to be white on the outside, but they were unconditioned by the desire to form story out of her memory, continuing story, the way we wish this space and light to continue. Therefore, we appreciate fog as the power to make the space continue beyond a single perception into raw material or youth of the body, like a body of light. It dissolves now at the top of her head, now 5 lights into her heart. Now it dissolves into her body. Her friends dissolve into light. They dissolve into her family, which seems to dissolve into clouds that were already full of light. It is not so much the quality or brightness of light or her understanding of this light as the number of times she dissolves. The faster she can dissolve into the space, the better. It is almost as if the complete dark would be ideal. I'm going to read the first part of the title poem of Hello, the Roses. I began to think about communicating with plants, and that you can look at a plant and the plant can look at you, back at you. My soul radially whirls out to the edges of my body, according to the same laws by which stars shine, communicating with my body by emanation. When you see her, you feel the impact of what visual can mean. Invisibility comes through of deep pink or a color I see clairvoyantly. This felt sense at seeing the rose extends because light in the DNA of my cells receives light frequencies of the flower as a hologram. The entire rose, petals in moving air, emotion of perfume, records as the sphere. So when I recall the emotion, I touch dimensionality. From a small body merges a tight wound bundle of baby skin coral petals, held in a half glow as if by cupped hands. Then petals are innumerable, loose, double, sumptuous, unified. I look through parted fingers to soften my gaze. So slow light shining off the object is filtered. Then, with feeling, I look at swift color there. Its swiftness that seems still as noon light, because my seeing travels at the same speed. I make a reciprocal balance between light falling on the back of my eye to optic nerve to pineal gland, radiance stepping down to matter, and my future self opening out from this sight. A moment extends to time passing as sense impression of a rose, including new joys where imagined roses, roses I haven't yet seen or seen in books, record as my experience. Then experience is revelation, because plants and people have in their cells particles of light that can become coherent, that radiate out physically and also with the creativity of metaphor, as in a beam of light holographically, that is, by intuition, in which I inhale the perfume of the Bourbon rose, then try to separate what is scent, sense, and what you call memory. What is emotion? Where in a dialogue like touching is it so vibratory and so absorbent of my attention and longing, with impressions like fingerprints all over? I'm saying physical perception is the data of my embodiment, whereas for the rose, scarlet itself is matter. So when I wrote a treatise on stars, I had this intuition or this goal of trying to express one ecosystem between the earth and the heavens. I'm going to read 4 parts of a poem called Wonder. One summer night, walking from our house after dinner, stars make the sky almost white. My awe is like blindness. Wonder exchanges for sight. Star by star comprises a multiplicity like thought, but quiet, too dense for any dark planet between, while single stars are a feature of the horizon at dusk, caught at the edge of the net of gems, transparence hanging on its outer connectedness, casts occurrence as accretion, filling in, of extravagant, euphoric blooming. Then being as spirit and in matter is known, here to there. I go home and tell my children to come out and look. The souls of my 2 children fly up like little birds into branches of the Milky Way, chatting with each other, naming constellations, comparing crystals and fire. They exclaim at similarities between what they see in the sky and on our land. So by wonder, they strengthen correspondence between sky and home. Earth is made from this alchemy of all children, human and animal, combined with our deep gratitude. I see his dark shape moving and shifting against night's screen of stars. My little girl reaches for his lighted silhouette. Human beings are thought upward and flown through by bright birds. We believe stars are spirits of very high frequency. We feel proud our animals come from stars, so dense in meaning, close to sacrament. We describe passing time in stories about animals. Star movement is named for the seasonal migrations of deer, wolf, hummingbird, dolphin, and as animals, stars still walk among us. Our snake, Olivia, for example, tells me there is no conflict between humans and rain because resource is all around us. A coyote loved night, and he loved to gaze at the stars. I noticed one star in Cassiopeia. I talked to her, and each night she grew brighter and closer until she came to life here as a corn snake, my friend. She looks like a dancer on tiptoe, stepping around pink star blossoms, surging up after rain. I start up to ask my birds to return home and find our land continuous with a starry sky mapped as entities who set into motion occurrence here. Place awaits an imprint from this potential, even though starlight arriving now already happened. What happens is a depth of field before and after drought, fire, storm, disruption. I move at high speed, but I'm still standing beside my house in the dark. To go there, I find the place on our mesa that correlates to their tree in the sky and leap up. Space stirs as star trilliums emerge through darkness like humus. I ask one blossom to please in the future renew these bonds between sky and my children, so they will always hold light in the minerals of their eyes. Sun, on its nightly underground journey, weaves a black thread between white days on the cosmic loom, like a chord or resonance between new experience and meaning. The origin of stars expresses the underlying warp of this fabric. Summer solstice draws a diagonal across my floor. Precession, weaving ground of informing spirit. So therefore, life is fundamental to stars. The reverse is well known. That's why I don't use a telescope, star charts, or glasses when I go out. I think of a place, I wait, then fly to my children. When the stargate is raised, there's a narrow door between sky and ground. But when I arrive, I find the sky solid. I can't break through to visit my starbirds and stand there wondering before dawn. Then sky vault lifts, Maybe I can slip through to find the Milky Way and see its blossoms. Then our sun appears in the crack and pushes through to the day. It's so bright, so hot, I step back and cover my eyes. I hear my mother calling. After I finished a treatise on stars, I went back to writing about plants. I thought of them after COVID and climate change as the way a plant grows expresses a possibility or possibility in the future. So maybe I'll read one or two parts of a poem called Phusis. Phusis, I think, in Greek means nature. It's a fundamental term. In my mind, it also means growing. A path through the woods winds along a stream that flows into the ocean. I look up at new leaves on a branch overhead and follow it back through a thicket of laurels to a very old ash tree. Another world of tree spirit interweaves our path, emerging through fluid energies like sunlight. Portals can be found near such a tree on our land and also in one's own interior. Expand your inner space toward the subjectivity of native plants by envisioning shared land. Earth encompasses physical nature and an ineffable vastness of intention, telluric impulse, vivacity. You are part of that consciousness now. You relate to inner space as a direct perception of this consciousness. For example, the ash tree is a receptive organ for the consciousness of Earth, capturing and transmitting light frequencies. The observer within, growth, Gaia, translates these frequencies into coherence, a matrix where every being connects to our sun. So the fractal, the whole, is more like a conduit. Perception of the ash tree drops into my awareness as gnosis, species, memory, prediction. Then light manifests as a mandala of all the living things. I did not know how beautiful we are. Many spring flowers draw their yellow from the sun. The sacred geometry of dandelion expresses a celestial space of multi-dimensions like possibilities. When you extend in alignment with their pattern, your future becomes myriad, where the fractal, the intention, like plant thought, is non-conscious, dispersed, immanent, embodied. Thousands across the grass describe a matrix of energy we call imaginal selves. Between exhale and inhale, I receive downloads from this field of plenty where growth begins. Growing the future in the present occurs face to face with their environment. Everything connects through cause and effect or evolvement. Then evolvement is a dispersion, like feathery seeds into air, connecting time and place. So I continue to dream forward. With each new seed, leaf, bract, repeating along a stem, the futural dimension pushes ajar. There is a somatic openness to others, to rain, sunlight, a kind of responsibility. The plant's telos is contingent on this alterity. Its sprouting, flourishing, flowering dehiscence, withering away, and so forth. Humans conversely approach death with hectic strategies for living longer, as if we are unfulfilled. Higher than our last moment stands possibility.
Thank you, Mei-mei. Your poetry is radiant. There's a tenderness and a loveliness in it, sacredness, and also the connectedness between the inner and the outer. And also, as you said in that last poem, connecting time and place. Do you, when did you write your first poem?
Well, when I was 4 years old, my mother took me for a walk on the banks of the Charles River in Boston, and it was covered with dandelions. And in my mind, I said, these dandelions are like a big yellow blanket. And when I said that in my mind, these like bells went off, and I knew, I guess I knew what I knew what it was I was meant to do.
What is it about the poetry form that attracts you to it?
I think when you connect words with emotion, you create. You can have the result of a music that I guess that's it.
Well, your poetry is lovely. And Mary Ann, why don't you come on the show for a few minutes and we can talk among Mei-mei and you and me if you're at your camera right now. When you write a poem, Mei-mei, what do you focus on? You know, your poetry is very complex, and you see so much. You know, the stars and the human being. And how do you write a poem? What is it that kicks off a poem, and then do you rewrite or do you just leave it alone?
Up to now, I've always started with an idea, and I do a lot of reading. And in a way, I've always called myself an appropriating artist, because when I read, I underlined phrases or sentences that might pertain to my original idea. And then I type all that out, and I print it out, and I cut it up into lines. I put it all in arrangements on the table, and then the composition is an intense period where I make maps out of those lines, and it's an unconscious process.
Your poetry is very complex, and the narrative, oddly enough, seems to be unending. It's almost like you're living right here, and when you're dealing, as you did at the end, there's just like a living right here and a hope for the future. And as you said, the emotions too are connected there between the humans, and the similarities between the human being and the stars, the stars and spirits, and that feeling of them on, I think you used a high frequency, and then you said something like, she looks like a dancer on tiptoe. I think maybe I'm wrong referring to a star, but here's Mary Ann. We have 2 minutes left. Mary Ann and Mei-mei, why don't each one of you say something about the other's poetry, starting with Mei-mei about Mary Ann's poetry, and then Mary Ann about Mei-mei. Mei-mei, please go.
Oh, Marianne, I loved hearing your poems. As I said, they have so much clarity. I was thinking that you use beautiful entities or objects or observations to build something with significant in meaning and emotion, and you do it in such with such economy. Also, I thought the sound was wonderfully transparent.
Mary Ann?
I loved hearing you read those poems. I felt like I knew what you were talking about, and that not many people have the courage to try to even put that into words, that profound nonverbal communication between plants and people and the planets out there. And I often have flying dreams, and I wonder if you do too. And I wonder if I could meet you there. Because
if I will have a flying dream.
Yeah.
One thing I suspect that we're two poets who edit a lot.
Yes.
Well, you'll meet in a poem that one of you will write, or maybe both of you, but it's just been a lovely, tender, spiritual hour that you two have spent with us. So thank you, Mary Ann McFadden and Mei-mei Bersssenbrugge. And next Tuesday, the wonderful actors Corinne Conley and Kay Wiseman and the marvelous poets Gail Ronsky and James Cushing will read from Stefan Mallarmé, collected poems and other verse. So that's our show today. It's just been a wonderful one. And so our leader, Jennifer Clymer, will be here to take us to the next show, the Cinephile show. So we're going to end this right now. So thank you once again, Mary Ann McFadden and Mei-mei Bersssenbrugge.